Hello, welcome to Venice Update on 90 International. I am Musbah and Wahab. President Muhammadu Buhari says the federal government will not compromise on doing the right things, including the welfare, well-being and security of Nigerians at home and in the diaspora. Exchanging views with a cross-section of Nigerians in Portugal, the president was emphatic that the prevailing challenges bedeviling the country notwithstanding, his administration will remain alive to its responsibility conscientiously till the last day in office. President Buhari also gave assurances of a free hand to the Independent National Electoral Commission, INEC, reiterating the commitment of his administration to ensure that the commission delivers peaceful, transparent, free, fair and credible elections in 2023. Other Blue Leaders High-Level Side events on the margins of the United Nations Ocean Conference in Lisbon, Portugal. Minister of State Environment Sharon Hikazo says Nigeria is leading ECOWAS member states in the campaign for protecting 30% of the oceans by 2030. She says, in the spirit of sustainable ocean management, Nigeria has created a marine protected areas, formulated national policy on plastic pollution to address the menace of marine plastic pollution from land-based sources and activities, as well as the establishment of a national roadmap on solid and plastic waste management in the country. In mainstreaming ocean into the economy, Nigeria set a Vision 2050, a medium-term development plan, with the ocean being an integral part of it. As part of Nigeria's plan to realize its blue economy potential, the nation constituted a presidential committee on sustainable blue economy. Global climate challenges, prospects, priorities and opportunities for economic development is the focus of the 2022 National Institute for Security Studies seminar in Abuja. The seminar created an avenue for understanding how climate change has affected the environment, conflicts associated with the climate crisis, opportunities for resolving the conflict, and the impact of Russia-Ukraine war on global security. Presentations were made on thematic issues including climate change and environmental protection, economic development, as well as conflict resolution in Africa. The President of Nigerian Supreme Council for Islamic Affairs and Sultan of Sokoto, Muhammad Sa'ad Abubakar III, has confirmed the sighting of crescent for the month of Dhul Hijjah. He therefore declared Thursday, that's today, 30th June, as first day of Dhul Hijjah 1443 after Hijrah. Consequently, Eid al-Kabir will be celebrated on Saturday, 9th July 2022, while Arafat will be Friday, 8th July 2022. The Sultan hereby enjoins Muslims to intensify efforts in acts of worship during the first 10 days of the month of Dhul Hijjah and also pray for the peace, stability and progress of Nigeria. And those are just some of the trending stories of this hour. Thanks a lot for watching it and join us subsequently for more news.
This is the network service of the NTA.
Hello, thanks for joining us. This is Platform. I'm Ruth Aguele. The cultural heritage of a people represents the identity of the people that needs to be protected, preserved, and conserved to ensure that generations unborn will have access to it. Nigeria, you know, is richly blessed with cultural resources renowned for her historical sites and artifacts, which the nation is yet to fully harness. Museums have the power to transform the world around us. As incomparable places of discovery, they teach us about our past and open our minds to new ideas. Now, two essential steps in building a better future. They contribute to shaping an informed and engaged civil society. In 1979, the federal government, with Decree 77 of 1979, established the National Commission for Museums and Monuments as a replacement for the Federal Antiquities Department to manage the collection, documentation, conservation, and presentation of the national cultural property to the public for the purposes of education, enlightenment, and entertainment. Now, this decree has been replaced by the NCMM Act Cap 242 of the Law of the Federal Republic of Nigeria. Nigeria has 52 national museum outlets spread across the country and historical sites, of course, scattered in different parts of the country. But what are the landmark achievements of the Commission in preserving the country's cultural heritage? Our focus on platform is Nigeria's cultural heritage, symbol of national unity. Our guest is no other person than Professor Abba Isa Tijani, the Director General, National Commission for Museums and Monuments. Thank you very much for joining us, Prof.
Thank you for having me.
Right. Let's take you through a bit of Prof's profile. Professor Abba Isa Tijani is the current Director General, like we said. He hails from Borno State and attended University of Maiduguri. That was in 1987 to 1990, where he obtained a bachelor's degree in creative arts, specializing in arts, history, and museology. Subsequently, he proceeded to the University College London, United Kingdom, where he obtained a master's degree in museum studies in 1994 and Doctor of Philosophy, PhD in anthropology later in 2005. Arising from his anthropological research titled Tradition and Modernity, the Garmegu Malgwa of Northeastern Nigeria. A former head of Department of Fine Arts and coordinating head of Department of Creative Arts, University of Maiduguri. He initiated and coordinated a research collaboration between University of Maiduguri and the Universities of Hamburg and Hildesheim in Germany from 2015 to date. He became a professor of anthropology and museology in October 2017. The erudite scholar has received awards both in Nigeria and abroad. Professor Abba Tijani's academic efforts have produced dozens of world-acclaimed publications, journals, and series covering the fields of museology and anthropology. He enjoys membership of professional associations like Museums Association UK, the Royal African Society UK, Museums Association of Nigeria, and Borno Museum Society, among others. I think we'll have to leave it there. Prof, what an impressive profile, I must say. You're just the right man for the job. Welcome to Platform once again.
Thank you very much. I think it is right time for us to understand what we are doing and what we are heading.
Yes, we will definitely get into that. But let's introduce our panelist, Laraba Mure from the Abuja Enquirer newspaper, a journalist. Thank you very much for joining us, Laraba.
Thank you very much for having me.
Always a pleasure to have you here.
Thank you.
All right, Professor Tijani, Nigeria is counting more than almost 80 decades, 77 years this year, since the commission came on board. If we look at Nigeria, the way we're so blessed with resources when we're talking cultural heritage, and from the picture of where you are standing, and where you are coming from, have we fully harnessed our God's given gifts?
Well, thank you very much. I think that is a question that we can say we cannot fully answer. And the reason is because Nigeria is a multicultural country, it's diverse, and we have a very rich cultural resources. And it is not easy to harness all these cultural resources within this period, because the nature of our societies, and even as you see it, the discoveries are still ongoing, because there are so many things that are yet to be discovered. And languages we speak also, we're talking about, over 300 languages in the country. So you can imagine, when you look at it, the number of museums we have in Nigeria is not enough, it's not adequate, to house and exhibit the cultural resources we have. Even if it means that we are going to have at least 5 museums in each state, that still will not be good enough. But I think we are doing our best at the moment, given the resources we have, and I think we have reached out to the communities in showcasing our cultural heritage so far.
But would you say, because if we want to look at museum, there are crucial aspects, if we're talking conservation, preservation, have we really conserved and preserved this heritage?
Of course, yes.
Okay.
If today you look at what we have across our museums, and all the discoveries over the period, you find that we have them intact, and we have them in storage and on display. We have, of course, famous traditions like the Ife, tradition. We have, the Benin bronzes. We have the Sode. We have the Ibo Uku. We have the Nok, and all these are still today intact and are in good condition despite, the age involved in these artifacts. So we are trying our best to conserve these artifacts, and that is what we are supposed to do, and that is what we have been doing. And those that we are able to display, they are there in the museums for people to come and see.
Laraba?
Okay, my question is, you mentioned you said they are in the communities and they are intact. That means the communities are accepting those the artifacts that we have. But do you think that the communities are doing enough now? I know that as an institution you're doing your part, but do you think that the communities are doing enough to preserve these heritages that they have?
Well, when you're talking about preservation of heritage, there are different levels.
Okay.
At the level of the community, we are talking about our cultural heritage in terms of the various traditions that exemplify our outlook, our traditions, meaning the festivals, the language we speak, and all other things.
Okay.
So there are so many of them that are intangible. We call them intangible. So, and these are there, and many communities still preserve these traditions. That's why yearly and in some, occasions, you find that, there are festivals, there are certain rituals, and so many things that are ongoing. So we can say that we have really preserved our cultural heritage. And then the other level is, of course, the tangible aspect, which are the ones that are now in museums. The artifacts which we are now preserving and also displaying them, presenting them to the public to see and understand. But also in the communities, there are also the tangible, heritage. We have our, traditional architecture. You have them all around. We have also the artifacts in the shrines and other places, the utensils, in our household, all part of our culture. And we find that there are many communities that are still using this cultural heritage.
Okay, and section 3, subsection 2b gives the commission responsible, heritage rights to take steps to maintain and to maintain heritage with the consent of the owner. That is, if there's a heritage in a particular community. But what the Act did not provide is for the owner to take responsibility, like I'm the owner of it. For instance, in Ethiopia, the proclamation, provides that the owner can repair, restore, conserve a particular heritage site. Why is it different for Nigeria? Let's say this community has this heritage. Why is it the responsibility of the commission according to the Act?
Well, it's referring to any heritage that is taken over by the National Commission for Museums and Monuments. Meaning, if it's an architectural structure or a site which is declared as a national monument, of course the responsibility lies on the National Commission for Museums and Monuments to protect and restore any of these national monuments. And of course there are different kinds of monuments. There are monuments that are occupied by their owners, meaning lived-in monuments. We have so many of them, like the Waterhouse in Lagos, for example, the Deji of Akure's palace in Akure, Ondo State. All these are occupied, and therefore the responsibility of looking after this cultural asset lies on the commission and partly on the owners.
You know why I asked the question? Because monuments or museums like that, let's say the monuments rather, has the potential for revenue generation,
Absolutely.
even job creation for
Absolutely.
the particular community that is involved, directly, not just indirectly this time around. So just the way of ensuring that communities, the Nigerian people, the owners of this heritage sites are also benefiting from what they own.
Yes, absolutely. That is why, for example, in establishing a museum in any community, the community is involved. There must be the consent of the community, and that's why the share of responsibility is there. So once the community accepts and a museum is established, it is the responsibility of the communities also to safeguard the artifacts and protect the artifacts as well. But at the same time, if we establish museum in a community, we are attracting tourists, which means that visitors coming there not only just see the objects, but also spend money in the community, buy souvenirs, and lodge in hotels and so on. These are the kinds of dividends that they bring into the community. But we are looking also on other concept of museum, which is the eco museum, which I have been emphasizing since I came. And eco museum is a cultural landscape, a community that can be designated as a museum itself, meaning it's not just a structure where you put the artifacts and then store them and open it on days when you want people to visit them, but the whole community itself stands as a museum. So meaning all the cultural displays, all the activities, and whatever is going on in the community is part of the museum. And therefore people visit and interact with the communities and understand more about those communities.
What has stalled the process? Because we're talking domestic tourism, promoting domestic tourism instead of travel. This is what a lot of countries use in generating revenue. And we have so much.
Yes, of course, we have so many issues. We have security issues and so on. And those areas that we identify as potential eco-museum, sites are places that are still, one has to tread with caution. So that is why we have not actually gone ahead to do that. But of course, our plan is to have such communities that will designate as, eco-museums. And I think a lot of tourists from outside the country want to see, when they come, that all these artifacts are actually within the community. They are seen how they are being used, meaning the objects in situ as they are supposed to be in the communities. And this is the kind of places that will be attractive to Europeans, because the normal museums we go and see objects, and of course it's the same in the European countries as well. But if you designate a community like this, then it will be very interesting for them to come and see the communities and see how the objects are being utilized and how people exchange, speak in their languages, and also their architectural, outlook and the rest.
Okay, so at what stage do we say that we have identified this community, or we have identified these utensils or some of the objects that you said are from the shrines? At what stage of process do we say, okay, these ones now qualify to become artifacts, or this community qualifies to become a domestic site for tourists?
Of course, what happens is first we have to send our staff to to different communities that we think are potentials, and then they will now engage with the communities, because first you have to engage with the communities that we identify, because they have to accept it and want to participate in this drive project of Eco Museum, so that when visitors come, they are free and they can interact with the communities. So in trying to understand or to look for these communities, we want to see that communities that have their cultural display, and their outlook, their traditional architecture and everything intact, meaning that they are still, practicing their traditional system of either cooking or religion, or the objects that they use are not modern utensils, of course, are the traditional ones, and you find that they have their shrines or places of worships and the rest, and all the things that are there in the altar and the rest are intact. And if we see such communities, of course, we engage with them and say we want to, bring in this project of Eco Museum. And of course, the whole concept is that any revenue generated will also be beneficial to the communities as well. So it's not accruing to only government, but also to the communities.
And now this is where technology comes in place, because if you want to attract the tourists, it should be out there talking about the collection, the documentation for easy access.
Absolutely.
Is the commission doing that?
Yes, we are doing our best, and COVID-19 has taught us that because during the COVID-19, all our museums were closed, and no access, no visitors. So we thought we need to devise means through which to reach to our audience, and that is how we use the power of digitization, so that all our objects are digitized, and then we put them online for people to access. So we have so many of our museums, all the displays in the museums that are online, and people can see and access online. But digitization is a very, complex process.
Yes.
And we are talking about thousands and thousands of objects.
Yes.
In one museum, in storage, for example, we have more than 40,000 objects. And for you to carefully, digitize this, it requires a lot of capital. And we are engaging with individual philanthropists, organizations, and overseas partners to see that we get funding to digitize our collections. And we are in the process of that. We have won ambassadors, fund from the U.S. Embassy to reorganize our storage in Lagos, in Ibadan, in Benin, and Kaduna. So we are still in the process of that. And once we reorganize our collections, it is easy for us to digitize, because we can easily access any artifacts that we want.
Okay, when we're talking about the communities, we talked about when is supposed to be a tourist site for the benefit of the community. Now, technology, digitization has come, and then is for display. Is it going to be free or at a fee?
Well, of course, when you go through the museum, let me tell you, the museum is supposed to be a non-profit making institution, but it's not realistic. A lot of museums outside the country, in US, in Europe, and other parts, of course, charge fees.
Yes, you have to pay.
But there are certain displays that you go and have access freely, so without paying. And of course, the capital intensiveness of this process of digitization requires that you charge a certain fee for people to access the online display. There are certain representation that is free, so that it gives you a glimpse of how it is like. And once you see and you're attracted, then you can have full access, and then you'll be able to see.
Yeah, because I was going to ask, when you talked about the funding, which is a challenge, if you have to document every artifact in a particular museum, which could be in thousands.
Absolutely.
Now, what about the basics? Just the different sites, the different museums we have, just the basics as a way of not just being stored in the website, but consistent awareness? Because you have to keep bringing something in front of people before they recognize and accept it. A lot of Nigerians, with all due respect to our country and our people, people prefer to go explore tourist sites outside the country than explore domestic tourism. So if it's not there consistently, if they're not seeing it consistently, where would the attraction come from?
That is why we are devising a lot of ways to make it attractive for our people here in Nigeria, but also for people in overseas. And one of these is we have started putting our exhibitions that are physically in the museums online, so that they will see these exhibitions and that will attract them to go and see the real objects. That is one thing. And another is that our youth are very much engaged with their devices. So we want any digital or virtual, display of these objects are also made available in certain applications.
I wanted to ask, are you thinking of an application?
That they will be able to access.
Yeah.
And not only that, but we want to make it challenging for them, because just like playing the games, we want to make it like a challenge for them so that they will be able to solve problems.
Have you put it out there? For an application? We have brilliant minds who could just think of coming up with an app.
Absolutely, and we know that, but it's a process, and there are all sort of copyright issues and so on that we need to sort out. And we are in the process of digitizing these Benin bronzes that are outside the country and those that are in the country and so on. So we have a huge project going on as well, and we want to do the process in a way that it is possible for us to do.
Okay, I like how beautiful all these things is coming out. It's actually giving me a picture. What are the challenges so far? Because I know funding is part of it. Then I've not heard you say state government has come in. It's just you won the Americas. You said something about winning an award. So thus far, what are the challenges?
Well, of course, as you mentioned, funding is a huge challenge. It's a major challenge, and with funding you can do, or you can solve all the other challenges, because we are talking about capacity building as well, because it also linked to funding. So we need to really, train and retrain our staff so that they will be able to live up to date with the developments across the world. But also we are looking at, partnering. It's essential that, this is not just a government business. We need to engage the public sector, the private sector. We need to engage with individuals that are interested in our culture so that they will contribute towards the process as well. And we have done a few of that, of course, by upgrading and renovating our exhibitions galleries, and also we have issues surrounding ethics as well, which is very important, because we have seen many of our objects illicitly trafficked out of the country, and all has to do with ethical issues. Breaking in where there is collaboration with staff or something, not now, but just before I came, it happened many years ago. And we are training our staff to be professionals, and all those that are, have access to objects must be ethically trained, so that they know and respect that these objects are our heritage, and we cannot sell our heritage, and therefore we need to respect and understand and protect our cultural heritage. And this is also another issue that we are going through as well.
Okay, how are you engaging your researchers? For example, if when antiquities are discovered, you told us from the start of this conversation that more are still being discovered. What is being put into consideration, and how much level of work do researchers put in to ensure that more of these artifacts are discovered?
it is essential that we look at this as a concerted effort, because research is a big thing. It requires institutions, not only just museums. So we are not only focusing on our staff, that archaeologists or anthropologists or ethnographers, as we may call them, but also institutions in Nigeria and outside the country. We collaborate in this way, but also we have to collaborate with certain agencies and institutions in Nigeria. For example, many of these discoveries we are talking about in Nigeria were accidental. So meaning either mining is going on and then they discovered that accidentally there are findings there, and then we now come in and take over, or road constructions, or even buildings. So these are many of the situations where most of these things are discovered. So once we get to know this, then we come in. But there are so many situations, probably I may not know, where people may accidentally bump into this kind of thing, and they will just think that these are things rubbish, and then they will just destroy them or bury them somewhere and continue with their construction. So that means that we need to really enlighten our communities, our institutions that engage in constructions and so on. And we have been receiving a lot of letters from such companies when they come across something, and we go and take over, and then we engage our researchers to go and look at this, and then we have to provide the funds for the excavation.
Yes, and how do you deal with illegal excavation? Because you said most of the discoveries are, accidental. Obviously, there will be illegal excavation you must have experienced.
We understand there are illegal excavations, and whenever we come across that, we of course intervene. But also in this situation, the security agencies are also crucial. We collaborate with them, just like the borders, the customs, the security agencies at the airport and at the different borders. We collaborate with them so that our objects are not taken out of the border, but also if we discover that there are illegal excavations, we intervene. And I think it happens sometimes with the collaboration of the communities, because people will come and offer them some money, and then they allow them to go and excavate places that they think there are things there, and then they take them and then export them out illicitly, and then they go and sell them for high prices.
Well, before Laraba comes in, we'll definitely go on a break while you also prepare your mind to tell us why the fine is just 500 naira or 6 months imprisonment. Let's go on a break. We're back shortly.
Hoping that their educational deprivation is not the end of the world.
Agencies and stakeholders to proactively tackle these challenges.
Women in most countries of the world constitute about 50% of registered voters. Henry Williams, reporting for Dateline 360.
In Jos, Caleb Gochin, Deadline 360.
Najaati Tijani.
Deadline 360.
Chidi Okrafo.
For Deadline 360.
In Lagos, Michael Olaleye.
Reporting for Deadline 360. I am Omosola Omojola. Thanks for tuning in.
Now, what could make someone set out on a journey and not get to his or her destination? Now, imagine the victim who cannot reach out to these responders, who doesn't even have the phone to reach out. Hello, thank you very much for joining us on platform and Ruth Agwe.
And the girl, especially if the girl is a minor, she's not yet 18 years. If she gets pregnant, realize that such girl is sent out of school and the boy is left in school.
Just back to pick the call.
So how much sensitization is the FRS?
I don't agree. A lot of people are just deaf.
Thanks for staying tuned. It's still a platform and we're discussing Nigeria's cultural heritage, a symbol of unity. Our guest is Professor Abba Isa. Before we went on the break, you were talking about what is involved for illegal excavation. And I asked, why is the Act provides 500 naira fine or 6 months imprisonment or both? For me, 500 naira, is there consideration to review that?
Well, that's to tell you that, the law of the NCMM has not been reviewed since it came into force before our independence. And that has brought a lot of really challenge to us, because we find that there are so many encroachments on our national monuments.
Yes.
And you end up seeing that, what is supposed to be applied is just meager and cannot do anything. So we have reviewed the law, but we are yet to present it to the relevant authorities to review. We are in the process because we want to be sure that we have taken the interests of every agency or every institution or every stakeholder to see that we have an act that is comparable to what we can.
I hope the fine will be more than that, because I'm sure you understand where I'm coming from. 500 naira compared to what that particular artifact can be sold for outside the country. You know what I mean?
Of course, yes. The fine will be higher.
Okay. Now, because of my interest in this, I said, as an individual, okay, you mentioned something about most of the things that we find are either during construction of roads. As an individual, can I decide to say this item in my house should be taken to the museum and kept there? Would the commission accept it?
Yes, of course. We have different ways of acquiring our collections, and one of them is either giving an object on loan to the museum, your own personal artifact, or bequeath, meaning that somebody can say, okay, at so period or after so I now want my artifacts to go to a museum, or it can be straight away a gift. As you are the owner, you can say, okay, I give this to the museum. So there are so many ways, and of course it's our responsibility to look after these collections and make sure that also the public benefit from it. By researchers also, we allow access, so that we need really a lot of research on our artifacts. There are so many things to do really to discover.
Okay, again, I would like to take us still back to what we talked about. You said in the event that the items go online, there's going to be an app so that the youth can engage in it. But don't you think that removal of history from the curriculum has made the youth to shift from paying attention to those things? Because now they don't have anything to fall back to. If anything, I'll say is my generation that knows a little about history, but these ones that are coming up don't have anything. Again, in the review of the law, is there going to be a recommendation to the government to see where they can bring back history, at least to suit our own culture as Africans?
Because it's really sad for this generation. I know that for me, history was my favorite subject, and it opened my mind to a lot of ideas.
Yes, I know. I did my history lessons also, and I think it is important that we know about our history, about our past, so that we will be able to understand our differences and how that unites us, because it's very important that we understand other people's culture, and that is the way we can respect others' culture and our own too. So it is important that we have history as a subject, and of course even if it means optional. And I know that still schools visit museums.
Yes.
In their curriculum, they have museum visits. So we get a lot of secondary school and primary school, children coming to museums, and our museum education officers, taking the tour, of these children, and also, educating them on the artifacts so that they will be able to see and understand. We have replicas that they can touch and feel, and then answer questions, puzzles, and so on. And this is still going on. So despite the fact that history probably is not taught, but still they have access to museums and they also understand about the history as well. And of course the law cannot recommend such kind of thing because it has
nothing to do with
it. So these are separate things. And
yes, but you are a professor of museology and anthropology, and from your background of knowledge and expertise and experience, you will understand where we are coming from. It's one thing to just see, but it's always a story behind every heritage.
Yes.
So understanding that story, that's the way you can connect to whatever you're touching or feeling.
Absolutely.
That's my understanding.
That's it. During our history class, that's how we know about Ife, Benin, Nok, all these, traditional, kingdoms, and empires that existed, prior to our independence. And we got to understand all this in our history, lessons. And of course, we want to also make people to understand and see that museums can be a replacement of that too, because these are places that you can go at your free will, meaning that you can go many times and for how long you want in order to understand, about our past, other people's culture, and traditions. And that is why we have taken the drive to upgrade our museums, because when I came in, I realized that many of our museums are actually places that are not attractive to the public. You want a place where people will be welcome, and when they go, they feel comfortable, and then be able to understand what is on display. And it is because of this reason and of also my background, I said we need to upgrade our galleries so that we make them to international standard, all the exhibitions. And we have started, so far we have done 8 last year, and we are going to do 9 this year.
And as a way of a recommendation, it's not in my place to give you that, but just for the future generation, will your commission be also considering, aside schools just picking a day once in a while to just go on excursion visit, there's no deep, knowledge about what it's just for the fun of it, sometimes, or just to educate the students. Is the commission willing or will be putting into consideration to work with schools, intensively to ensure that these students, when they come, it's not just, it should be like a maybe yearly thing for schools, maybe draw out a plan for schools to come yearly, select a particular schools, work with the states, and for consistency, just to ensure that seamless process, just as a reminder to our future generations.
Actually, it's even beyond what we are saying, because currently what the schools is part of their curriculum actually to visit museums. So it's not consistent. It's consistent. Every year they visit museums. Every class visit museum, and we also reach out to the schools. So it's two-way. So they come to the museum, and our museum education officers go there with replicas of our artifacts and go and have interaction with the children. And when they come, it's not just that they just go on a tour of the exhibition, but also they sit down and have like a workshop, and then the problem solving, kind of situation. So it's not just the normal visit as, a visitor to a museum, but this time around you are going there to learn, as a student or as a pupil. So that's how it's going. It's not just, something that they go once a while. No, it's every year they go, every class visit museums.
Okay, my question is, why do you think we need to have information about museums and monuments now in Nigeria? Why now? Because for some time I haven't heard anything about this institution. So why now?
Well, I wouldn't say why wasn't it before I came, because that is something that if I say as in my capacity as the chief executive today, it will not sound right. But what I know why today is because I feel, the commission also feels that, we need to create awareness of our culture, of our tradition, of our past, because of what is going on in our communities today. All these social, vices, all these problems you will be having is because of lack of respect for our culture. And if we can understand our culture has solutions to all these problems. So we want to now take this opportunity to educate our youth, to educate the public, to respect their culture and the cultures of others. And as a professional also, I feel that, it's not right for us to say we have museums and these museums are not, at the standard that they are supposed to be, and not at the level where people will go and feel comfortable and welcome. And therefore I said it is not right. We need to really upgrade our museums so that it will become attractive. And I think that is why now people have started seeing the importance of museum. When they go there, they see new exhibition to the standard that when they go overseas they see. So that is I think the drive now that created this awareness. And also because a lot of people call me personally, I don't know why they get my numbers, but they call me and say, well done, we have seen this museum in so place, we have seen a new exhibition and the standard is excellent, and so on. So I think there is also communication between individuals that have seen these exhibitions, and it goes out like that. And I think that's why the awareness is
and especially now, when we're faced with insecurity in the country, it's a very big challenge. Museums like that will serve as a symbol of unity, like the National War Museum in Umuahia, one of its kind actually, where they preserve relics from this Nigerian Civil War. I think that is one museum that should be out there consistently, more like a reminder that war is not something we have to bargain for it.
Absolutely.
Okay, but which brings us to the question of the National Museum. What is happening? We're supposed to have one in Abuja.
Yes, you are right. We don't have a national museum in Abuja now, and we are looking forward to see that we have one. But I think the challenge is that first the land that is supposed to be allocated to the museum in the master plan is no longer under the commission, and we are trying to see that we retrieve that land. And once we retrieve the land, I think there is a commitment from the government also and the private sector to see that they invest and the museum to come up. And we have already our architectural design, which is it looks traditional, and once we have it there, we will be able to have a representative display of all the states in the country, so that when you come to the museum, it's like a center of unity.
And it's like
you are in Nigeria.
Yeah,
it's like you are in the whole of Nigeria, so you will see everything, every part of Nigeria.
So should we say that there is a plan for exhibition anytime soon before the land is fully allocated and the building will begin? Should we say that you have plans for exhibition anytime soon from 36 states?
Well, we always have our plan, what we want to exhibit, but we cannot do the exhibition if the structure is not there. So we have to first have the structure before we can now do the exhibition, and I think we'll get somewhere. And I think the publicity is there. The media has been saying it, and we have been echoing it, and I think government is aware of this problem, and I think we'll have a solution.
Just for clarity, what Laraba is trying to say, if I understand her, before the actual plan of a structure on ground, more like an exhibition somewhere, just an exhibition in Abuja, inviting different, having display of different artifacts from across the country, and like an event.
Yeah, we have been doing this, of course, in many of our museums, and in Abuja we are looking at, that's why we are engaging the government on this seized properties, so that if we can have a property that can be large enough to have such kind of display, then we will be able to approach government and see if we can get such kind of property, so that we can have exhibition even before the structure comes into place. Otherwise we have to look for halls which we cannot take our national assets and take them there without security. So that's why it is very important that wherever we are going is a place that is secure, and these items are priceless, and as you can see in the process of this repatriation, you can see how much value these artifacts are.
Which brings us to the question of securing these museums. How much security is involved across the country?
The museum, it's not a good idea to talk about the security of museum. But what we want to say is that we have secured our museums, and the most important thing is now to engage your staff, for them to understand and respect what you have.
Yes.
And once you do that, I think you have done 90% of the security aspect. And the others is just to take control of the security personnel that are there, and also to make sure that the museum environment is protected, and of course once that is done, and I think we will not have problem. But security is something that involves a lot of things, a lot of internal arrangements, and it's not wise really to give details of all these aspects. Yes.
Laraba, your final question.
My final question. You mentioned repatriation briefly.
Yes.
What country are we expecting anytime soon that they will return some of our artifacts?
Yes, we have reached agreements with some countries. For example, the Smithsonian in the United States of America, they have already approved the release of 29 Benin artifacts that are going to be returned to Nigeria, and we are going to go probably in August or so to sign the agreement for the physical transfer of the objects. And the Glasgow City in Scotland has already approved also the release of 17 Benin artifacts, and we are going before the end of this month to Scotland to meet with the authorities there, and also in Scotland, in Edinburgh, the National Museum Scotland, we are engaging with them. They have a number of artifacts there. And then also within the United Kingdom, we have the Pitts River in Oxford. They have over 50 artifacts. The Museum of Anthropology, Archaeology and Anthropology in Cambridge also have about 150. And they have all agreed to return, and they have started the process because they have to go through the school governing board and so on, and it has scaled through certain processes, and we are going to go to the last lap, and also same as the Honeyman Museum. But next month we are going to sign an agreement with with Germany, as you know, to repatriate about 1,130 artifacts.
Wow, okay. Professor Abba Isa Tijani, we wish you the best. And I know you're one man whose vision is to see the rehabilitation, restoration, and repositioning of this great institution. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much for having me. Thank you.
All right. And Laraba, thank you for your time.
Thank you for having me.
All right. We've been talking about Nigeria's cultural heritage, symbol of unity, and the motto for the commission is greater heritage for greater future, which of course cannot be sustained and achieved without you and I. That's Platform. I'm Ruth Aguilera. Bye.